there was abuse uh, by the parents against the children, which has a relationship with domestic violence. So I kind of learned that without wanting to. And also now I practice immigration law and criminal law and accidents. I did family law for 17 years, where the domestic violence was also involved with restraining orders and the divorce procedure. And I got tired of babysitting adults after 17 years, and I stopped practicing family law. But that all has remained and has helped me tremendously in dealing with the immigration aspect for victims of domestic violence. So I'll talk to you just a little bit about domestic violence and also the legal aspect, which is the victim of domestic violence, and then the legal aspect pertaining to the U visa, which is the victim of a crime. First, I'd like to know if you just tell me your involvement in this organization. Do you help people, or do we have victims? Who do we have so I know who I'm speaking to?
A real array. You have folks that are victims, you have folks that are clinicians, case managers, so it's just a real spectrum.
Okay, so everybody. Okay, just so you know, I'm filming for my own purpose. We are not filming anyone, nor will we record anyone's voice. As a lawyer, that's a privacy issue, so I want you to be comfortable, but it's just for my show that I have. A Facebook show every day. I'm also on the radio every day. You may want to write this down in case other people may want to hear. It's 690 AM. 690 AM is the radio station. It starts at 4 o'clock. It goes on for 2 hours every day. They repeat 1 hour at midnight, and then they repeat 1 hour at 5 in the morning. It was a popular Hispanic radio station, and I talk about immigration generally, but they can call me and ask me questions regarding anything. It's a legal advice for the community, and it's entertaining at times. It's in Spanish, and because some of the questions that people have, and I like to turn it around. It's not just, oh, okay, that's your question, call me, make an appointment. It's not that type of a show. I've been on there now 6 years, 5 days a week, at the beginning 1 hour. There is no other lawyer in the world that has a show like that, in Spanish and in a foreign country, which is the United States. And I'm a citizen, by the way, now. But, okay, so I guess at the end we'll be able to have a few questions and answers if you like, okay? So, well, I'm just going to pretend you don't know anything about domestic violence, because I did hear some when I came in, I heard something and I get an idea that you have it. Okay, there are thousands of people who die every day in the United States. We're not even counting the rest of the world as a result of domestic violence. And sometimes it comes on the news, sometimes it doesn't, and most of us are not aware of it. And it begins with a yelling. And then after you yell, and the victim, which could be a man, it could be a woman, just doesn't do anything, shies away, and then they shove, they push you, along with the yelling. Next thing you know, you get stabbed. Next thing you know, you get killed. It's very sad. There's many movies that you've seen about domestic violence. The one that I can think that was really, I didn't like it at all, was with the singer J-Lo. She was a victim of a domestic violence. She married some Anglo guy from a ranch or something. It was real sad, and what she goes through. It was like real life, because I've seen it, I read it in reports, I had clients that went through it, so it was very unpleasant. Anyway, that's an idea that it is a serious problem, and they do have shelters where a person can call and go, and they disappear for 2 or 3 months away from the aggressor. They'll give them food, shelter for the kids, and even legal help, 2 or 3 months on these shelters. And they don't give the address. I remember I needed to get a letter for one of my clients, and she was in a shelter. I couldn't get the address. I said, hey, just give me the address. And they said, no, we don't, we keep it private. But eventually I got it, because they were getting back together. Anyway, it was a positive thing that I did, but I found out you could not even get an address because you don't want the man hanging around there waiting to attack the woman. It takes care of the victims as well as the kids, and it doesn't matter if you are here legally or illegally. They'll take you in because we're all humans. Okay. Now, what is domestic violence? Most people know it as the physical aspect of it, and that is you hit somebody or you throw somebody, you duck and it doesn't hit you, but you still go through the tense and nervousness of that being hit. That's the most common one. That's the one we hear. That's the one that people get arrested for in the world. And the other one is most common is the emotional aspect. It's verbal and it's constant. And it begins with a slight negative comment, and we take it, which could be you're overweight. I just had a client who came in, he's a young man, he's a little overweight, and he said that his wife started like that. And, oh, you should lose, but jokingly. And now it's come to a point that she is making him feel bad about it. And so he doesn't know what to do. So it begins like that, and then they go into the vocabulary, the verbal vocabulary, which is vulgar, it is unacceptable socially, and then things that hurt the woman or the man. And now, I've been giving these speeches for a while, and I wrote my notes here from 2014. I was wondering what year it was, and I noticed that I keep putting the victim as the woman, and I'm pro-woman, just so you know. So I always used to say the man basically is the jerk, But lately, in the past 3 or 4 years, my business has increased with men being the victims of domestic violence. Women still the same, but now I've got an increase in men. And so it happens both ways. And the verbal comes in like that. It could be because the man gets drunk. Generally, if that happens, gets drunk or takes drugs and comes in and offends the woman. And now I've noticed that there are some women who have some illness and they're hurt or whatever, and they release their stress with who? With the loved one. That's how we do. In general, when we release our stress, it's not with the secretary, it's with the niece, it's with the daughter that's at the office. And so they release it, and the guy says, because they told me, well, she's sick, she's ill. They're like, it's not her fault, and maybe it's not, I don't know whose fault it is, but it is domestic violence. They say, well, you still qualify, it doesn't matter. Well, I love her, that doesn't matter. You can stay with her, there's no problem. I'll go into that in a minute. But that is the domestic violence. Domestic violence is like a puzzle, okay? There are many different things that we put them together, they become a domestic violence. For instance, I already indicated the insults. This young man was a little overweight, and you intimidate by throwing something. Control. What does control mean? Hey, I'm going out. Where are you going? Well, I'm just going to the store. What time are you coming back? And that person may feel, oh man, he cares about me. He loves me. That's control. Where are you coming? Where are you coming back? What time? Why is you so low cut? Well, you want to find a man? And I hear that, and I've seen it. Okay, that type of a control. Jealousy. Oh, you're looking at my cousin now, just because someone may have said, oh, how nice, or whatever. That's part of it. Threats, and also, in the domestic violence, I've learned that they don't want anyone near your partner. I don't like your family. I don't like your friends. So little by little, you start with 100 friends, and 2 years later, you realize you don't have anybody. And nobody comes to your house, not even your relatives. You fight with your mom, you fight with your brothers, because they all don't like him. And that's part of it. And also death threats, which are not physical, just to say it. And sometimes the death threat is like, you'll see what happens, right? It depends how he says that. And that's a death threat. It's not I'm gonna give you a gift, honey. It's something else, okay? And we interpret that in the restraining orders that I've represented the victims mainly, what they said. They don't say, I'm going to kill you. They say, you'll see what happens when I get out, okay? And sometimes it doesn't matter, especially I guess I was going to say especially the machista, but most of the aggressors are machista. So it doesn't matter if they take him to jail. When he gets out, he'll take care of you. And some people have. They've gone out and killed a partner after they got out of jail. They don't care. And then the last thing is, forgive me, I'll change. They don't change. They need help. And as the lady was saying, there is hope to get better. And as time goes by, the aggressor gets tired. It's like running on a horse. Horse is going to get tired as time goes by, and they mellow out, and things hopefully get better. But I think that they need to get help at some time. You can go to counseling or places like this where they help you. You get an idea and to get better. We hope that everything is better because he's your husband, because he's the father of your kids. Okay, but you have to make the decision when to get help, because you don't want to die. But then who's going to take care of your kids? And I heard comments about the kids a few seconds ago as I walked in. And that's another factor. Many women don't want to do anything or take any action because of my kids. And guess what? Those kids are suffering from that domestic violence, and when they grow as a young man, a young woman, they see mom get beat up, 10 years old. No, that's the marriage. So now he's 20, I gotta beat up my wife. And I've seen many cases in my practice of young kids, 20, 21, beating up the wife. I don't understand why. Why? Because, like the lady said, they saw mom and dad saw grandma beat up, and it's a chain. And in this country, they're trying to cut that by tough laws of the restraining orders, and also putting them in jail and say, hey, not here, brother. But the rest of the world, they're way behind in that. But anyway, we're here now. And so you have to do it for your kids. It doesn't mean you have to divorce. You just got to get help, because those kids are not going to benefit. And I remember hearing, and most of you have heard about Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, need help. Then I heard about kids from parents who were alcoholics, that they need therapy because of the alcohol. Because when the guy was drunk, he'd come in and he'd make a storm, or he'd make it real pleasant. So you didn't know how to react when dad got home. And that created a discomfort for the kids, and as they grew up, things got worse, not any better. Okay, so if you're doing it for your kids, get help. And this is one place where you get help, communicate with other people. And if you are not a victim of domestic violence, you probably know somebody, and you are the person who has to help them. Most of my clients don't come in alone. The brother brings in, the compadre, the comadre, the in-laws, somebody has to bring them because they don't feel they can do anything. I remember I had a lady from Bakersfield. She came in for immigration purposes, and all of a sudden turned that it was domestic violence. I said, hey, let's do it through domestic violence. Then I said, go ahead, don't worry about it, make it a payment plan. And then she overpaid me. And so I sent back a check. I said, here, take it back. It was $90. And she called and said, what do I do? Just go to the bank. They issued it to you. You can just sign and get it. Okay. What a big deal, right? 5 minutes later, a man calls me. And I don't give out my cell. I said, who is this? I'm in Bakersfield. I'm here with a lady at the bank. She's got a check. She doesn't know what to do. I said, well, just tell her, go to the cashier, endorse it, and say, well, okay, I mean, was that all? Yeah, that's all. She called back crying. 5 minutes later, I cashed the check. I could not believe that an adult, she was 28, had so much difficulty on cashing a check. And so then I realized that sometimes the victims of domestic violence are like 5-year-olds. And that's a reality. So we need to be aware of that in order to be able to help some of these people who are going through these unfortunate times. Okay, I'm going now into the legal aspect of it, or what are the benefits of being a domestic victim of domestic violence. The program under the immigration is called VAWA, and those are the letters that are V as in Victor, A as in Apple, W as in wife, A as in Apple. VAWA is I think it's Victims Act of Women's something. I don't remember it all. but that's what we call it, FAWA, okay? Now, under this law, and this is for the benefit of the people who are undocumented in the United States. And generally, in order to qualify for this specific program, to be able to obtain a work permit and maybe later a legal residency card, you have to be married with a United States citizen or a legal permanent resident. And that legal permanent resident is a green card holder. They call it green card, and that's to be here legally. Okay, those are the two requirements, and then you qualify. Now, you could be married with the person, or you can be divorced, but you have to do it or file it within 2 years of the divorce. So it's very important that you get this person to a lawyer right away, so you make sure you don't file it after the divorce. So 2 years of divorce. And if you have kids under 21, those kids also qualify, because we have many families that come from other countries with the kids. They suffer domestic violence over there, and then over here again. And then if the guy dies, that solves all the problems. But you gotta file it within 2 years. Now nobody's gonna say anything, right? Because the guy's dead. And so you're gonna make it through there, and it's not a problem. And under this program, many people have the fear, what am I gonna say about my boyfriend, my husband, or this and that? There will be no questions asked by anyone. I tell them, you know what, the only one you're gonna face about this is, and I cover my face, it's me. I make the decision, basically, according to the law. I prepare the packet according to the law, and I send it to the immigration department, and they approve it. I've never had one case denied, not because I'm a great lawyer, it's just I'm smart, I don't send the bad ones. If it's not domestic violence, hey, that's not it. Like someone says, oh, you know, the guy yelled at me because his food was cold. That's not domestic violence. The man says, she yelled at me because I did not take out the trash. That's not domestic violence. It could be a step into it, but it's not. And it's not, it's not. That's not it. So that's why I'm successful, because I only send the cases that apply. And once again, so I take that fear away that you got to face somebody or someone's going to question you about it. I do it. And obviously it has to be the truth. It takes about 10 months to be able to get a work permit, which is something that puts a lot of peace of mind in people, especially today that we have a new president. I had a client who was a victim of a U visa, which I'll talk about it, but he had a paper that we had filed. That means I'm doing something. And had it been last year, if you show that paper and you say, that's my lawyer, oh, okay, looks like you're gonna make it, we'll leave you alone. But this time, he showed that paper and they took him in anyway. Okay, I got him out a couple days, 10 days later or so, but they're not respecting anything unless it's an authorization or an acceptance of domestic violence or a victim of a crime or something. So be aware of that. And after the 10 months, nobody calls you, and they don't call you witnesses, because we have to have witnesses. Who saw it? Who did you tell to? And most people keep it to themselves. But generally, there's one person that you tell, or you cry, or whatever. Okay? And then the relatives see the symptoms, but they can't pick it up. But you need declarations from other people to support, because anyone can lie. And the immigration says, well, 4 or 5 people are not going to lie together. One may, but not 4 or 5. So they need declarations. Okay, after the 10-month process, if the guy's an American citizen, file some other documents with the immigration department, 4 months later, you can get a green card. And there they said, well, we're going to have an interview. I said, yes. What are they going to ask me? I'll tell you. They're going to say, who do you live with? Say, my husband. And that's it. They cannot go beyond that, because it has been approved that she is a victim of domestic violence already. So that makes life a little easier. Now, there are some issues. Many people were deported. They left to Mexico. I use Mexico because it's right next door. They came back. They got caught. And those raised other issues. And last year, there were no issues generally, except for when they lied having a false documents. That was a little issue, but normally they let it go because of domestic violence. But now, this year, they began to block legally. They're going through the extent of the law, and they're making it just a little more difficult. But you still can end up with the work permit forever. You just got to renew it every year, and they will not take you out. So we have to deal with that. Okay, and if you file for domestic violence, you can remain married. You can live with the guy, have 10 more kids. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares, because we are not here to determine if the man or the woman can get better. And we hope that it gets better. That's not our situation. And many people say, how can we give you that? You still live with the man. Well, that's the law. We're not here to judge the man or the woman. It's just what you are going through at this time. And another thing is, many people are concerned what other people think. I don't know why they live like that, but most of us do, right? The neighbors, the cousins, we want to fake and say, oh, I got the greatest marriage. Whoever says that, that's the worst marriage. I've seen it, I've heard it, and that's how it is. But we want to have a facade that we're happy. Well, just live reality, okay? But the thing is, no one needs to know. And on your green card, it doesn't say you got it because of domestic violence. It doesn't say anything. No one knows. It's very private. And the other thing is, I don't want my husband to get arrested or anything to happen to him or be precluded from getting his citizenship or lose his job. We don't do anything against the husband at all. As a matter of fact, I had one lady who was getting beat up just about every weekend. And I said, well, you can file it. Yeah, but I don't want him arrested. Okay, well, don't call the police. Just keep getting beat up. And finally, I filed it, and I said, don't tell your husband. But many cannot control themselves. They gotta tell the husband. I said, it doesn't matter. But this one, if she told him, she get beat up. So finally, we filed the papers, and all of a sudden, it came back. It was not enough violence. I said, what? So I called her in, and I said, hey, did you tell me everything? Yeah. Did he ever threaten to kill you? Yeah. Did you put it down? No. Why not? I don't want anything to happen to him. And then his son, their mutual son, which is an adult now, 22 or something, didn't want to write anything. I said, you bring your son in here. And I gave it to him. I said, look, you better tell the truth. This is for your mom. We're not doing anything against your dad. You got it? But I was really almost yelling at him because I didn't think that was correct. You got to support mom or the dad, but you're not doing anything against them. So what's the problem? So we rewrote the declaration that the guy had threatened her to kill her, but she did not want to put it because of this fear, and she got a green card. Went home and said, hey, let's go to TJ to eat some tacos. And he looked at her, how are you going to go? Hey, I'm a green card. Where'd you get it? I don't know, the lawyer got it for me. And that's it. And I don't know if she's still living with him, but she did not have to divorce. He did not know. We did not do anything against him. And I don't care. I mean, I'm not here to judge. How can you be with a man that beats you up? It's none of my business, and I make the client feel comfortable. Well, that's how I feel. I hope he gets better. You know, he's the husband, and you love him. Or you love him, and he's the father of your kids. I hope everyone does well. But let me help you right now and get the green card. All right. And also, sometimes we commit crimes, and maybe as a victim of domestic violence, we committed a crime. The guy says, hey, go get that. I don't have money to pay for the cologne. And they do that. And some of these crimes are not in the criminal system, but at this stage, they're forgiven if they are related to the domestic violence. Once again, because the victim of domestic violence is approximately 5 years old. Okay, so you have to look at that, and obviously if there's some crimes regarding drugs, that's always a problem. Unless we can link it or attach it to the domestic violence, which occurs a lot. A lot of, especially the younger people, you know, the guy gets high, but you gotta get high with me, honey, if you love me, and they do that. And so that's a problem. Now, let's say that we filed domestic violence, she gets the approval, gets the work permit, we go get the green card, and they said, no, we're not gonna give it to you because of this. One lady came all the way from Iowa. As a matter of fact, I called her, she got deported, and went to a lawyer, then came to me, and I said, hey, da-da-da-da-da. Goes, I was driving. That was a Saturday, I remember. And I said, I usually call my clients when I drive because I have time. Is there any domestic violence in your house? She's in Iowa. And she goes, oh, let me tell you, I got the greatest husband. And I said, okay. All right, well, we're just going to file an appeal and we'll just see what happens. On Tuesday, she calls me. I'm alone now. That guy beats me up. You know, oh, I think great. Now we'll do domestic violence. So I got her the domestic violence. She's in another state. She got the approval. And then we filed to get the green card. And unfortunately, a judge had told her, you got to leave. She left years ago before I met her and then came back. And so I said, we can't let that one slide. And I said, okay. So, but she still has her work permit and renews it. Okay. So just to know, if they deny it, you're still here with your work permit, and well, you can't travel, but not a big deal. Okay. That is called VAWA, and that is victim of domestic violence. We do not have to have a police report. It's your word. Whatever you say, they're going to believe it. Obviously, with some other witnesses or declarations. No police report needed. No arrest needed. Contrary to what everybody sees on the television, they arrested him. We don't have to have an arrest. Okay, that's domestic violence. Now, I'm going to go into the other section that helps undocumented people with the victim of a crime. Victim of a crime is driving your car, someone pulls a gun to get out of the car, taking your car. It's a crime. Or they pull a gun, they take your wallet or your telephone or whatever, or a knife, or you get really beat up. I mean, really beat up. Some serious crime, or they kidnap you or something. That's victim of a crime. Okay. Now, getting beat up by domestic violence, that's a crime also. Okay, but in this case, the victim can file it and does not have to be married to this guy. Why? Because they're the boyfriend, okay, the living guy, or could be the father, but they're not married. So now we need a police report. And if the person, mostly are men in this case, if the man pled guilty, you need that record from the court, which they'll give it to anybody. So you don't need, this time you need a police report and a criminal record if the guy pled guilty. I don't care if he's deported or if he's still living with you, it doesn't matter. And again, nothing happens to the husband, the boyfriend, the live-in, or the friend. It doesn't happen. And that's always a big concern with all the clients. What's going to happen to him? Nothing, unfortunately. Anyway, so we need a police report. You don't have to be married. It applies if you have kids under 21. And in this case, one of the, I think, is nice things, some women come over and they leave their kids back home. They meet another guy, they get beat up. Guess what? She's going to benefit from the U visa because they're not married, and I'm going to be able to bring the kids back in. Even though the kids did not suffer the domestic violence with this guy, I'm going to bring him in. And that's the law. So they can reunify, and it's something very nice and rewarding when we see that happen. Okay, that's it. You get a work permit in about 2 years. There's only 10,000 of these visas available a year in the United States. It used to take 8 months when this all began in 2007. Now, because there's so many people that are waking up in the United States, it's taking 2 years to get a work permit, and then you'll get a 4-year work permit. And after 3 years of that 4-year work permit, you can apply for your green card or your residency. And there are really not too many obstacles. You're going to make it through. This lady who was in Idaho, I told her, hey, if you're a victim of domestic violence, we'll make it. So we'll see what happens with her, but she's tranquil now. One of the requirements regarding the U visa is that you have to cooperate with the police or the district attorney or the investigator. And what does cooperate mean? It means, hey, you want this guy arrested? Yes. You want the judge to put him in jail? Yes. You want justice done? Yes. If they say, no, you know what, I really don't want him in jail, I just don't want him to bother me, that's no cooperation. If they call you to testify, I had a case. A client of mine was in immigration proceedings and trying to do a waiver or something. I was appealing that. All of a sudden he says, hey, you know, they're looking for him because of domestic violence. And I said, well, there's no warrant. You can go wherever you want right now. And then later a warrant came. Anyway, I went to represent him in the criminal court, and they gave me an envelope with photos of the victim. So I got it. Okay, we'll be back. And when I looked at those photos, I really almost got sick, because a picture is better than 1,000 words. And then I looked at it and said, I didn't do it. It was her boyfriend. I said, okay, tell me the story. So he says they went to a party, and she was with him, and then the current boyfriend came in, took her to the room, beat her up, and snuck out the window, and the police didn't find her. And I said, and she goes, and she's gonna say that. I said, you know, if the initial report said it was you, and in law, that's what counts, what they say immediately, not 2 weeks later, maybe. Anyway, we went to court, and because you have to go to court several times, the criminal court. I didn't like that case. I said, you know, this is a tough case. And I began to dislike the guy internally. But obviously, I have to maintain my professionalism and ethic. And so we went to court, and by that time, they had denied the immigration thing. We got out of court, and they arrested him. They said, wait, officer, there's no warrant or anything for him. Oh, yeah, but the case got denied. Yeah, but that's administrative. No, we're taking him in. It was probably vengeance from the investigator, because if you saw the pictures, it was sickening. And so they arrested him, and then I went to the immigration court, and the woman came. And I said, well, what happened? My boyfriend did it, not him. All right, write it down. I wrote it down. I presented it to the judge, and they released him. The next court I appeared, the district attorney could not believe I got him out. I wasn't that thrilled with it. I mean, I did get him out, which is very difficult. At any rate, we got there, and I told the guy, I said, this is a bad case. They can give you 8 years in jail, and then you're going to get deported. I can't be deported. I make $250 a week here. I can't make that in El Salvador. I looked at him and said, bring your family. Brought his brothers in, and I explained it to him. This is bad. So anyway, they replaced me. So happy. And they got someone cleaned the house of a lawyer who wasn't really a criminal lawyer. And he said, hey, my brother's in trouble. And I said, oh yeah, I'll help him. Charge low or whatever. Then I realized the guy didn't have that much experience, took the case. I was happy. They went to trial, and they found him guilty. 8 years in jail. And the brothers came and said, well, it's done. They paid another lawyer to appeal. I ran into the brothers again. Oh yeah, the appeal got denied. What I had told them already. I said, well, okay, you know. And then now, 4 years later, it's coming out, because they do 50% of the time. It's coming out for the immigration. They want to hire me again. They said, no, he's going to be deported. But we'll pay you. No, I don't want your money. And now he's gone. You know? Oh, and now the woman did not want to come testify, and she was undocumented. And the district attorney told me, we're not going to sign that U visa for her because she did not cooperate. He lost for his behavior, and she lost for what? For nothing. And she had kids. So that means cooperate. Also, if you move out, you got to keep the police or the investigator informed, because they'll put down you did not cooperate. That's a little, I don't like that. But anyway, be aware, and you have to cooperate. Okay. That's one of the things. Now, in the past few years, there's a new monster that's come up in the domestic violence that I did not talk about in 2014 or subsequent to that. But now I've realized that some of the undocumented people, or maybe the Americans, but doesn't benefit them in immigration, the undocumented parents brought the little kids here. And in the United States, you cannot use physical punishment, right? You know why I'm a lawyer? Because they used physical punishment when I was back home, because I misbehaved. And nothing happened. I still love my mom. I'm glad she whipped me one time, and I learned. And I became a lawyer, and my brother has a doctorate in electrical engineering. And my other sisters all went to college. But in the United States, you cannot use physical punishment. So now the kids do what they want to do. You touch me, I'm going to call the police. Now these kids are monsters. They're 21 years old. They've got their green card, residents, citizens, or they were born in the United States. And now they're terrorizing the mom and dad, breaking walls with their fists, yelling in the morning, demanding. And mom and dad, or mom, which is single mothers like this, she is a victim of domestic violence of her son. Okay? And she can get benefits of an immigration, just like I indicated, and nothing happens to the son. And I've been seeing this more and more. The other day, a lady came, and she goes, "Do you want to see a video?" And I said, "No, that's okay." And as I was writing my notes, she played the video, and I could hear the guy pull a shotgun on Mother's Day. And he said, "Johnny, put it down." And the sister, I couldn't, because it stop. I couldn't believe it. It was like a movie. And I said, wow, I can't believe that. Anyway. And on 4th of July in the city of Anaheim, a 21-year-old son pulled out a knife, stabbed the mom, the dad, and grandma. This 4th of July. He got arrested. So these are monsters that are coming up for whatever reason. I'm not a psychologist. I did make a comment that there's no physical punishment, and there shouldn't be any, because it's against the law. But parents are not able to bring them up. I don't know what the problem is. The problem is they're like that. And one last example that I always tell, I had this man, he was huge, like a bear, undocumented, married to a citizen, had 3 kids, citizens. And when I got a hold of him, I found out that his wife petitioned him, he was able to make it, so I filed the papers, and on the day of the hearing, she didn't show up. And I said, then I detected there was domestic violence. Oh yeah, she meets streets development. I filed a domestic violence, and it got denied. I cannot believe why it got denied. It's the only one got denied. He went back to court, and then I got him out again. He went again, and the wife didn't show up again. And anyway, in the process, he eventually got a kid that was 21 who felt sorry for dad, and we were able to get him his green card. But in the process that I met him, I knew him. He was a nice man and just kept bringing money in, and he did it for the kids. And the kids also were aggressors with him. He goes, "Oh no, they also yell at me." But one of them was 15. He was in a classroom, and somebody said something and made fun of him, and everybody laughed. He goes, "Oh, you guys want to laugh? I'll put a bomb in here."
Oh, God.
They took him out right away, took him to juvenile court at 15. And the judge said, "You're going to be here until graduation." And he stayed in there. That's a sad story, but he learned it. Simple words. "I'm going to put a bomb." And the judge said, "All right." So they kept him in. So that kid is probably going to beat up his wife. But anyway, it was a sad story. Okay, so that is one of the problems that are coming up nowadays, and you need to be aware. And nobody wants to talk about it because that's the kid, your baby. You loved him, and now he's a monster. And you don't want your aunt, the rivalry within the aunts and all that, which is kind of sickening. They're gonna say all this, and unfortunately, it's part of life, reality, what it is. Okay, so in closing, the FAWA, you can get a work permit, residency card, must be married to a resident or a citizen, and you do not need a police report. So it's just your word. And then the second one is the U visa, and that one, it can be a boyfriend, girlfriend, or can be married, because you can be married to an undocumented. You have to have a police report, or if you plead guilty, a court report. And one last thing, the President Obama did, the victims of domestic violence in another country can come in and get political asylum. Now, it's very small, but it's happening, especially in those small Central American countries that if you sneeze here, you'll hear it at the end of the country because they're small. I mean, that's just how it is. Mexico is different. But if you come from a little town where nobody respects that domestic violence, they think that's your problem at home. The judges won't do anything. They know the guy. those type of cases that are serious, we can bring them in. Domestic violence, those come in. Whenever it's domestic violence, they're letting them in. The kids that are suffering domestic violence, they escape, they come here, domestic violence, boom, they get in it. Not because of guns, not because of drug dealers, no, domestic violence. So that's one window that has been open to the world, wherever it is. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain, and we'll turn off that, because we don't take your voice if anyone wants anything.